please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18. Now back home on Dalal Street, the markets cooled off in the final hour of trade after a strong start, but still managed to end at near 4-month closing highs. The Nifty ended with mild gains. The Sensex as well closed with nearly around a 50-point gain. The banks saw wild swings ahead of the expiry that's scheduled later today, closing more or less flattish in yesterday's trading session, but there was a relative underperformance by the time we wound up from the mid-cap index. Ekta is with us. She's going to run us through all the cues that are stacked up for us. Ekta, morning.
Hi Nigel, absolutely. Like you mentioned yesterday, the markets did close in the green, but it was off the highs and the mid-cap index ended in the red. Now, in terms of what we have done on a week-to-date basis, it is interesting because there's a marginal outperformance of us as compared to the globe. So the Nifty is up around 0.8%, mid-cap index week-to-date is up around 0.5%. And if you compare this to the MSCI Asia ex-Japan, which is flat to a negative terrain. Flat as per yesterday's closing. So obviously the rates have changed this morning. Now, in terms of the FIIs, they net sold around 71 crores in yesterday's trading session. So the absolute amount came down, but we've seen that in the past that it fluctuates, but we're not seeing any sort of sustainable buy come through. Now, in terms of the global markets, the US ended lower. The US Fed has hiked rates as expected by 25 basis points, and they expect 2 more hikes in 2018. So maybe the street was not expecting the Fed to outline further aggressive rate hikes for the entire year, and that's exactly why the US markets ended in the red. We have Asia, which is in the red as well, and the SGX is also pointing to a start in red terrain as well. So let's see whether there's any sort of pickup from those levels, but as of now, that's what it's indicating. In terms of further cues to watch out for, the ECB meet takes place today. They are set to begin a process of easy money exit. Don't expect a huge reaction for us unless there's something drastic that comes out. There's Brent crude, which is still hovering between 75 to 76, so there's no real big change which has come in there. And I would just watch out for follow-on buying, which comes in from the Nifty Pharma and PSU Bank Index, because both these indices are up around 4% on a week-to-date basis. It is also the Bank Nifty options expiry, so that's another cue to watch out for. In terms of the Nifty, now in terms of levels, it's above its 20, 50, 100 and 200-day moving average. Technical analysts are saying that the range is anywhere between 10,700 to 10,900, and the next level to watch would be 10,929, which was the intraday high that we had touched on 15th of May, and after that we scaled off.
Okay, so thank you for outlining that market setup for us, but what are the stocks that you're watching out for?
Well, I'll watch out for Dish TV, where Rare Enterprises, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala has bought around 0.7% shares of the company. Lupin, which they've launched an inhalation solution in the US, so it's a sentiment positive for them. Adani Transmission has received an LOI of one state intramission project in Uttar Pradesh. Kansai Nerolac, commencement of commercial production for sale at a new manufacturing unit in Gujarat. ICICI Bank, ICICI Pru board has approved the sale of 2% shares of ICICI Pru Life via OFS by promoter. Triveni Engineering and Industries, a wholly owned subsidiary, has been incorporated as an SPV for an implementation of a project. Ruchi Soya has clarified with regards to Adani Wilmar, which has been declared as the H1 bidder. Further, both applicants, which is Adani Wilmar and Patanjali, have an opportunity to revise their plans. Tata Power Renewables signed a PPA with GE. Cipla is evaluating an IPO in one of its arms, so that stock is in focus. Oberoi Realty, QIP committee has authorized opening, and Canara Bank, the board is deciding to raise equity worth around 7,000 crores.
Okay, all right, Ekta. Thanks so much for that. Well, on that note, let's listen in to some opinion coming in from Ashburton on the sectors they like in India.
I think actually Indian IT could be in a fairly good position for the next few years, after an initial period of skepticism. We play most of our consumer plays via auto ancillary stocks. We have been doing over the last few months quite a bit of work on the mid-cap space. I think what's worked against us is unfortunately the stocks have screamed up incredibly quickly in that mid-cap area. I think obviously the mid-cap space, because of the liquidity side, it is mainly domestic as well. So there's liquidity issues. It doesn't take much of a selling to hit stock prices. And in addition, I guess mid-caps are predominantly domestically focused. And at the moment, investors, I think, from a sentiment perspective, are fairly bearish actually in the short term on India, and I think people are more wanting to hide in large cap liquid names that do have external exposure, hence the outperformance of large cap IT, and obviously more recently we've seen healthcare beginning to have a pop as well. I think it's probably a trend which will last a little bit longer. We have been reducing incrementally our mid and small cap exposure.
Okay, let's take a short breather on the show now. Come back and we'll discuss HDFC Bank, because remember, the cabinet has approved their fundraising plans there. Details on the other side of this very short break. Stay tuned. Well, the cabinet has approved HDFC Bank's proposal to raise around 24,000 crore rupees via the foreign direct investment route. Currently, the foreign holding in the bank stands at around 72%. With the raising of this capital, FDI in the bank would hit the regulatory ceiling of 74%. Foreign investment of up to 49% is allowed in Indian banks without approval. But remember, over and above that, regulatory and government nod is mandatory.
एक अहम निर्णय जो आज कैबिनेट ने लिया वो HDFC बैंक में 24,000 करोड़ रुपए का एडिशनल FDI अधिक फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट अप्रूव किया गया है, जिसमें ओवरऑल विदेशी इक्विटी होल्डिंग 74% के कैप के अंतर्गत ही रहेगी, लेकिन 24,000 करोड़ रुपए अधिक FDI लेने की मंजूरी आज कैबिनेट ने HDFC बैंक के इशू के लिए दी.
Well, let's get straight to CNBC TV18 exclusive then. The annual return form under GST may be under discussion at the tax administration level. That's the word that's coming in from GSTN Chairman Ajay Bhushan Pandey. He added that GSTN will execute it once it's approved by the tax authorities. When quizzed about data security under Aadhaar, he said that the Aadhaar Act has a strong regulatory framework and has a lot of safeguards for privacy.
Senior members of the opposition party have said that the current system of GSTR 3B is illegal, and calculating the tax due to the government on the basis of GSTR 3B is not legal at all. What is your view on this, and how would you like to allay the concerns that are being raised by such people?
First of all, this GSTR 3B is an intermediate measure, because the GSTR 1, 2, 3, which was supposed to be filed, because of certain difficulties, it could not be done. Now, if you see what is there in the GSTR 3B, the GSTR 3B is basically an aggregate of the information. Right? We are not asking for any information which are different from, the GSTR 1, 2, 3. It's only an aggregate information. So if the tax authorities or the government was entitled to get information, this I would say this the granular information which were supposed to come through GSTR 1, 2 and 3, if the granular information was legal, then how can the aggregate information could be illegal, right? So my humble view would be that the GSTR 3B is legal and continues to remain legal.
Apart from the monthly return, what we are also hearing is the fact that soon there would be an annual return also that taxpayers will have to file, where just not the monthly return would be enough. They'll have to give much more details in the annual return. Where are we on the annual return, and what would be the benefits through this annual return that government will get?
I think this whole format of the annual returns and those things will have to be worked out, right? So at this stage, I mean, this may be in the discussion among the tax authorities, but as soon as we get in the GSTN, if certain views are firmed up, we will try and do the needful so that those forms are made operational.
Certain section of judiciary is of a view that absence of regulatory mechanism for data security is something that could weigh against Aadhaar before the court. What is your view, sir?
You see, my view is that there is a very strong regulatory mechanism, and which we have presented to the Supreme Court also. Aadhaar Act is in the recent, all the acts that have come into this area. Aadhaar provides a very, very strong regulatory framework, because Aadhaar Act has lots of safeguards for privacy. For example, nothing can be done without the consent. Largely, nothing can be done without the consent of the individual, right? Because again, it is based on the principle of minimal data, consent, then optimal ignorance, and then the fundamental thing is that whatever data that Aadhaar has belongs to people, the Aadhaar holder. UIDAI is only a custodian.
Okay, that was about GST, but we here at CNBC TV18 celebrate 25 years of Infosys listing. Here is a snippet of what founder Narayana Murthy had to say on how he put together a team and laid the foundation of Infosys.
We were all working together in Mumbai at Patni Computer Systems Limited. I was very fortunate to put together a very high quality team. There are probably about 100 very smart youngsters. And by then I had understood that there are three basic ingredients for running the entrepreneurial marathon. One, you need competence. Second, you need commitment. And third, you need character, a value system. And while I was working with all these people, I was able to realize that all these people had the three ingredients that we were looking for, that I was looking for. And that's how we all came together.
Well, time to slip into a short break. Up next, the government is looking at Plan B for Air India stake sale. We get you exclusive details on the other side. Stay with us.